So 4.7 homework. We're going to start with the part down here. So numbers 7 through 12. What do I have to do for these? How do I know where I'm going to plug it in? I got to plug it in to wherever that x value is. So where's negative 4? Less than or equal to which one? The first one. So negative 4 is less than or equal to negative 1. So that falls into the first piece here. So I would plug it into that one. So I have negative x, so negative 4 plus 4. What happens to that negative 4? Turns into a positive. So this would be 4 plus 4, which is 8. So our answer would be 8. All right, for number 8, which piece am I looking at for g of negative 1? The first one, because the first one is talking about when x is less than or equal to negative 1. So it still satisfies that x is less than or equal to, because it's equal to negative 1. So here I have negative 1 plus 4. What does that negative 1 turn into? Positive 1, and positive 1 plus 4 is 5. All right, let's jump down to 11. What piece does 2 belong to? First, second, or third? Third, because 2 would be greater than or equal to 2. So we're looking at the third piece. So here I have 2 times 2 minus 5. 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 minus 5? Negative 1. All right, let's look at 9. So looking at 9, we have 0. Which piece do you think 0 would fall into? The middle one, because 0 is in between negative 1 and positive 2. If it helps, you can always make your own number line. So I would have negative 1, 0, 1, 2. So 0 would be in between these two. If it helps, you could always draw it out on a number line to see it. So 0 would be our middle one. So what would our answer be? 3. I don't have anywhere to plug in 0 because it's just y is equal to 3. This g of x is a fancy way of saying y. So no matter what value it is in between negative 1 and 2, it will always just be 3. So for graphing our piecewise functions, we're going to do 15 first. We just want to graph each piece at a time. So I'm going to start with the first one. Remember, it helps to think about it as y equals mx plus b. So if I have y is equal to negative x, what's my slope? Negative 1. And what's my b? 0. I'm not adding anything after, so my b is just 0. So what point would I put first on my graph? 0. I always graph the y-intercept first, which is our b. And then how do I show the slope of negative 1?
Go down 1 to the right 1.
Perfect. It's like saying negative 1 over 1, so it'd be down 1 to the right 1. So I go down 1 to the right 1, down 1 to the right 1. So just draw my line. Now, once we draw the line, we always have to check our restriction. So this tells me that x is less than 2. So I feel like it helps when you draw a line at that x value. So I'm going to go to where x is 2 and put a line there. Now I'm talking about x values that are less than 2. Would that be to the left of this line or to the right? To the left. X values less than 2 would be like 1, 0, negative 1. These values over here. So that means I erase everything to the right of 2. So my line starts at 2 and I erase everything to the right. So I'll erase this line that I also drew here to help us see it. And then the last thing we want to see is, am I going to have an open circle or closed circle at 2?
Open.
Why is it an open circle?
Because it's not greater than or equal to.
Perfect. Because if it's just less than or just greater than, it's an open circle. So put an open circle at 2. So our line should look like that. All right, let's draw the next piece. So I have x minus 6. What is my slope? 1. What's my b? -6. So we always start by graphing the y-intercept, which is -6. So it's the same as our b. So I'm going to put a point at -6. How do I show the slope of 1?
Up 1 to the right 1.
Awesome. Up 1 to the right 1. So up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1. Keep drawing some points, and then we just connect the dots. So remember, we always want to draw a full line first, and then we'll look at our restriction, and then we erase from there. So our restriction says that x is greater than or equal to 2. Greater than or equal to 2. So I would put a wall at 2. Greater than would be to the right or to the left? To the right. So that means I erase the left part of it. I only care about what's greater than 2, x values that are greater than 2. And at 2, would I have an open circle or closed circle for my second piece? Closed circle, because it is a greater than or equal to. So that equal to part makes it a closed circle. All right, let's also graph 18. So we start with one piece at a time. So I'm going to start with the first one. So I have x plus 8. What is my slope? 1. What's my b? 8. So my y-intercept is 8. What would I graph first? 8. I'm going to put a point at 8 on my y-axis. How would I show the slope of 1? Up 1 to the right 1. So up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1. So remember, we draw a full line first, and then we erase it from here. So my restriction is x is less than 4. So I would go to 4. My graph actually doesn't extend that far, but I'll make it longer. So I'd go to 4 and put a wall at 4. If x is less than 4, which part do I need to keep? To the left. These values are less than 4. 3, 2, 1. I want to keep this part. I keep everything that's less than 4. So I erase everything else to the right. And I can erase my wall there too. Now at 4, am I going to have an open circle or closed circle? Why open? Right, because it's just the less than sign, so it's an open circle. So I put an open circle at 4. Any questions on the first piece? All right, let's graph the second one. So for the second piece, we have 4x minus 4. What's my slope? 4. What's my b? -4. Awesome. -4 is my b. What would I graph first? Graph -4, so I put a point at -4 at my y-intercept. And how do I show the slope of 4?
Go up 4 to the right 1.
up 4 to the right 1. Awesome. Whenever it's just a whole number, we would put it over 1. So up 4 to the right 1. Up 4 to the right 1. Up 4 to the right 1. Then we can connect our dots. Again, this one's going to be off of our graph. But I'll extend my line further so it'll look like this. Something like that. So now we care about when x is greater than or equal to 4. So I'm going to put a wall at 4. Greater than 4 would be which direction? To the right. So which part am I going to erase? The left side. So I only care about to the right of 4. So I erase everything else to the left. This one was a little tricky because it was off our graph, but that's fine. Now at 4 for my pink graph, do I have an open or closed circle? Closed circle. So I put a closed circle there. All right, so for the next part, we have to write a piecewise function for the graph. So it gives us the graph, we have to write a function. So just like the other ones, we have y equals, and we'll draw our little bracket there. Now we're going to start with one piece at a time. So I'm going to start with the left line first. So to write our equation of a line, I'm going to write it as y equals mx plus b. So I need to know what my slope is, and I need to know what my b is. What would my slope be here? 1, perfect. We go up 1 to the right 1. So my slope is 1. What is my b? 2. So I plug that in, I would have y equals what? Awesome, x plus 2. Because if it's 1x, we don't write the 1 because it's already implied that the coefficient in front of the x is 1. So it would just be x plus 2. Now we also have to write our restriction. So where does this graph stop? What x value? What x value does this part of the graph stop at? At 0. Are we looking at x values that are less than 0 or greater than 0 over here? Less than 0. So I would put x is less than 0. Now, it's a closed circle, so we could put less than or equal to. But since like these 2 points overlap, one of our circles is going to be closed and one's open because they can't actually overlap. So if this one is less than or equal to, that just means that the other one has to be without the equal to sign. So we can't have 2 dots on top of each other. One is an open circle, one's a closed circle. You just can't see it here because they overlap. But typically it would look like this, where one is open and one is closed, like in the next question. All right, let's look at our second piece. So my graph starts here and goes this way. So if I have y equals mx plus b, and I need to know my m, and I need to know my b, what's my slope here? 0. Awesome. Anytime we have a flat line, a constant line, your slope is 0. So what's my b? 2. So what does y equal? 2. Perfect. Because we don't have any slope, so we don't write an x. So y is equal to 2. Anytime it's a constant line, it's just going to be y is equal to a number. So y is equal to 2. Now we need to write our restriction. So where does our graph start? 0. Our x value, because we're looking at x values for our restriction, it's always about the x value. So we start at 0. Are we talking about x values that are greater than 0 or less than 0? greater than. So x is greater than 0. So 27 has 3 pieces. I'm going to leave space for 3 pieces in my squiggly there, my bracket. So let's start with the first one. So when we write these, you always just start from left to right. So let's start with our piece furthest to the left. So again, we want to write our equations as y equals mx plus b. What's my slope for this piece? 0. It's a flat line, just like the last one. 0. What's my b? 1. Awesome. If we extended this, it crosses the y-axis at 1. So b would be 1. So how would I write this? Y equals what? 1. Whenever it's a flat line, it's going to be y is equal to a number. So y is equal to 1. Now we have to write our restriction. So I'm going to put a wall at where this starts. What x value does my graph start at? -2. Are we talking about x values that are greater than -2 or less than -2? Less than. We're going to the left, so that's less than. So I'd put less than. Is it less than or less than or equal to? Less than or equal to, because it was a closed circle. So less than or equal to -2. All right, let's do the middle piece now. So I start here and go here. So again, I'm going to write it as y equals mx plus b. What is my slope here? So just pick any 2 points on our graph. We go up 2 and to the right 1. So 2 over 1, which would be 2. And what is my b? 0. I cross the y-axis at 0. Perfect. So this would be y equals what? Y equals what? Y equals 2x. Perfect. Remember, y equals mx plus b. So we put 2 into the m, 0 into the b, but we don't write plus 0. So just 2x. Now we have to write our restriction. So here we have 2 parts, a stopping and a starting point. So x is actually in between these 2 numbers. So it starts at -2. Where does this piece of the graph end? What x value? 0. Now is x greater than or less than -2? Greater than. Or -2 is less than. Yeah, so less than because x is greater. And then is x greater than or less than 0? Less than. Awesome. Or equal to, because it's a closed circle there. Perfect. These 2 signs will always go in the same direction. But just be careful. One of them will have an equal to. Sometimes maybe neither of them will have an equal to, depending if it's an open circle or closed circle. So they may not always be the exact same sign, but they'll be in the same direction. All right, let's look at the third piece now. So for the third piece, I need to find my equation of a line. So what's the slope? The third piece to the right. All right, so let's pick 2 points. I go up 1 and to the left 2. So what do you think my slope is going to be? What's my rise? -1 over 2. Awesome. Notice that our line is decreasing, so your slope is negative. Always just double check the sign of your slope. All right, and what's the b? 2. We cross the y-axis at 2. Perfect. So how would I write my equation of the line?
Y equals -1 over 2x plus 2.
Perfect. Y equals -1/2 x plus 2. So here I'd write -1/2 x plus 2. Now where my graph starts, I'm going to put a wall there. What x value does my graph start at?
0.
Remember, we're looking at the x value, so it's 0. Are we talking about x values that are greater than 0 or less than 0? Greater than, because we're going to the right. So greater than, x is greater than 0. So 29, again, we have 3 pieces. So y is equal to, I'm going to make my bracket big enough for 3 pieces. Do we agree, are all the slopes here 0? Yeah, because they're all constant lines. So what does that mean that x is going to be equal to? I mean y is going to be equal to. Y is going to be equal to just a constant number. So we got to figure out what y is equal to. Because all of our slopes are 0 here. They're all flat lines. So we start with the piece furthest to the left. What do you think y is equal to here? Awesome, -5. So y is equal to -5. Now x is between what 2 numbers?
-5 and -3.
Perfect, -5 and -3. So -5 and -3, x is in between. Let's say x was -4, and I put a -4 here. Is -5 less than -4 or greater than -4? Less than. It's a bigger negative, so it's less than. Awesome. It's less than or equal to, because it's a closed circle. That means the other sign's also going to be less than, but it's just not equal to. Let's go to the second piece. So what is y equal to for the second piece?
Y is -3.
Awesome. Y, if we extended the line, it would go through -3. So y is equal to -3. So the second piece is going to be -3. Now x is between what 2 numbers here? -3 and -1. X is in between those. What are my signs going to be? Awesome. Less than or equal to and less than. The first one's a closed circle, so that's why it gets that equal to. All right, and let's look at our third piece. What is y equal to for the third piece? Perfect, -1. And then let's look at our x's. What 2 values is x in between?
-1 and 1.
-1 and +1. X is somewhere in between. So what sign would I put first?
Less than or equal to.
Perfect. Less than or equal to, and then less than. Awesome. And let's graph 31, just for fun. So all of these are just constant numbers. So what do I know that each piece is going to be? A straight line. So I'm going to start with my straight line at 3. And what's x in between?
0 and 2.
0 and 2. So x is going to be in between 0 and 2 for my line at 3. So 0 and 2 means that I stop at these 2 points. So I erase everything else. Now, which one's going to get an open circle? The one at 2, because that one just has a less than sign. The other one gets the closed circle. All right, let's look at the next piece, 4. So I'm going to put a line at 4. But 4 only goes in between the x values of 2 and 4. So I erase everything else except what's in between 2 and 4. Which one's going to get the open circle?
Number 4.
The one on the right, so at 4. All right, let's look at 5. Or the third piece, so 5. I'm going to put a line at 5. What are my x values here? 4 and 6. So I'm going to erase everything that's not in between 4 and 6. Which number gets the open circle? 6. So I put the open circle there, closed circle at the other side. And then lastly, let's graph our line at 6. So I put another flat line there. 6 is in between what two numbers?
6.
6 and 8. So I'm going to erase everything else besides 6 and 8. Which one gets the open circle?
Right.
The right side at 8. So there's our graph.